Department of Zoology, HPT Arts and Arbiter Science College, TY B.Sc class, paper 4, ZY334, Environmental Biology and Toxicology. Name of presenter, Javre CS. Today we'll see chapter number 7, Toxicant and Toxicity. In that 7.2, types of toxicants. Classification of toxicants. Toxic agents are classified in a number of ways depending on the interest and need of classifiers. Dioscoride classified substance using general characteristics, that is whether they are toxic or therapeutic. Or phyla classified substance as being of animal, vegetable or mineral origin. No single classification is applicable for the entire spectrum of toxic agents, and combinations of classification system based on other factors may be needed to provide the base rating system. Classification systems that take into account both the chemical and biological properties of agent and the exposure characteristics are most likely to be useful for toxicology in general. Classification scheme for toxic agents. It based on source of toxicants. Here plant toxicant, animal toxicant, mineral toxicant and synthetic toxicants are categorized. Example of plant toxicants are morphine, curare, strychnine. Example of animal toxicant is a toxins or any toxins obtained from animals and venoms. Mineral toxicants are copper, lead, selenium, iron, and synthetic toxicants are pesticides, organophosphate, carbamate, aluminum phosphide. Another way is based on physical state of toxicants as gaseous toxicants, for example, hydrocyanic acid, HCN gas, sulfur dioxide, carbon monoxide, phosphine. Then liquid toxicants, for example, sulfuric acid, carbon disulfide, nicotine. Solid toxicants are strychnine, opium, atropine. Dust toxicants are asbestos dust, silicon dust, metallic dust. These are based on physical characteristics as inflammable or non-inflammable toxicant, explosive or non-explosive toxicants, irritant, non-irritant, corrosive or non-corrosive types of chemicals serve as a toxicant. Now one more type of classification is based on target organ or system in a body. Actions on primary site has been taken as a basis of classification, though these chemicals may cause damage to various systems in body. A hepatotoxin, the example is a carbon tetrachloride, aflatoxins, phenol. These hepatotoxins are poisonous to liver. Then neurotoxins, many insecticide, organophosphorus insecticide, pyrethroids, anesthetic, nicotine, they cause toxicity to the nervous system. Nephrotoxins, that is example is a heavy metal, lead, arsenic, cadmium, oxalates, they cause toxicity to kidney. Pulmonotoxicants like alpha methylthiourea, hydrogen sulfide, ammonia gas, they cause toxicity to our respiratory system. Hematotoxins that cause toxicity to circulatory system, blood. Example is a warfarin, cyanide, phenothiazine, snake venom, specifically pit viper venom is toxic, hemotoxic. Then dermatotoxicants which cause toxicity to our skin. Example is a coal tar compounds, petroleum oils, heavy metals. In this photograph, all different organ toxicity is summarized diagrammatically. Now classification based on chemical nature or structure of a toxicants, like inorganic toxicants. These includes metals, metalloids, non-metals and their salts. and derivative acids and alkanes. In these metals, for example, lead, copper, mercury, antimony. In non-metals, phosphorus, sulfur, chlorine, nitrate, nitrite. In acid and alkaline, hydrochloric acid, sulfuric acid, and potassium hydroxides are examples. Lead is one of such metal which cause toxicity to various organs in our body, that brain, heart, kidney, liver, bones, and reproductive system all get affected by single lead metal. In case of organic toxicant, this includes all carbon compounds other than the oxides of carbon, the carbamates, and the metallic carbides and cyanides. Hydrocarbons, for example, cyclopropane, benzene, paraffin, naphthalene. Halogen derivatives of hydrocarbons, for example, chloroform, BHC, DOT, carbon tetrachloride. Alcohol and phenols, for example, methyl alcohol, ethyl alcohol, phenol, cresol, pentachlorophenol. Here we can see toxicity of organic pesticides in leaves. Then ethers, diethyl ether, divinyl ether in case of aldehyde and ketones, formaldehyde, paraldehyde. Organic acid, for example, formic acid, phenoxyacetic acid, salicylic acids. In case of ester group, organophosphorus insecticides, succinylcholine, amines. That example is adrenaline, ephedrine, amphetamine. In case of amide groups, phenoacetin, sulfonamides. In case of glycosides, digitoxins, cyanogenetic glycosides. In case of alkaloids, nicotine, atropine, strychins. And in case of protein, ricin, crotin, and abrin are toxicants classified on the basis of their chemical nature. Now, based on analytical behavior of toxicants, they are classified as toxicant can be classified into separate characteristics groups according to the analytical procedure involved. In the STAS-Auto scheme, toxicants have been divided in groups. First is a volatile toxicants. For example, hydrocyanic acid, alcohols, acetones, phenol, chloral hydrate. Then extractive toxicants. In that first group is a toxicants extractable by ether from acid solutions. For example, organic acids, nitro compounds. Second category is toxicant extractable by ether from alkaline solutions like alkaloids. Third category is of metals and metalloids. For example, copper, mercury, zinc, silver, antimony. Now, another way of classification of toxicant is based on their toxic effects. It is difficult to classify toxicants on the basis of toxic effect, as a single compound may have number of effects. Here, still they try to classify it as carcinogens, for example, thiouracil, vinyl chloride, nickel. Mutagens, for example, ethyl methane sulfonate, UV light, nitrogen mustards, nitroso compounds. Then some teratogens, for example, phenyl mercuric acetate, triazines, and thalidomide. Clastogens are UV lights and caffeine. Toxicants are classified on the basis of principal uses of toxicants, like insecticides, for example, organophosphorus insecticide, carbamates, pyrethroids. Fungicides, for example, Captan, Folpate, pentachlorophenol. Herbicides, for example, triazines, paraquat to 4D. Rodenticides, for example, warfarin, fluoroacetates, red squills. One more category of toxicants classified on the basis of principal use are food additives. Preservatives, for example, ascorbic acid, sodium bisulfite. Antioxidant, for example, ascorbic acid. Emulsifying agent like cholic acids, desoxylic acids. Coloring agents, amaranth, tartazines. anti-caking agents, aluminum calcium silicates. They also are poisons or toxicants used in various foods. Here in photograph we can see many such toxicants are available in food as in the form of additives. Now another way of classification is based on poisoning potential. They separated this toxicant as extremely toxic if that lethal dose of that poison is less than 1 mg per kg. Highly toxic if that dose fall between 1 to 50 mg per kg. Moderately toxic if the dose of poison is 50 to 500 mg per kg. Slightly toxic, then the dose is between 0.5 to 5 gram per kg. Practically non-toxic, that means if the dose falls between 5 to 15 gram per kg, and relatively harmless poison is the dose is more than 50 gram per kg. One more type of classification based on mechanism of action as anticholinesterase agent or cholinesterase inhibitors. For example, organophosphorus insecticides and carbamates serve as a blockers or neurotransmitters. Sulfadryl inhibitors, example mercury and arsenic. Protoplasmic toxicants, specifically all heavy metals, and corrosive toxicants like caustic alkalis, acids, heavy metals, irritant gases come under this group. Then metahemoglobin producers like nitrite, inhibitors of mixed functions with oxidase, for example pepronyl butoxide, inhibitors of Krebs cycles, example is fluoroacetate. Uncoupler of oxidative phosphorylations, for example dinitrophenols, chlorophenol, and fungicides. Now one more way of classifying this toxicant is based on the environmental and human health considerations. Air pollutants, water pollutants, radiation hazards, occupational hazards, etc. Toxic substances are classified into the following as heavy metal. Heavy metal differ from other toxic substances in that they are neither created nor destroyed by humans. Their effect on health could occur through at least two mechanisms. One is by increasing the presence of heavy metal in air, water, soil, and food, or by changing the structure of chemical. For example, chromium 3 can be converted from chromium 4, the more toxic form of the metal. Another kind is of solvent and vapors. Nearly everyone is exposed to solvents. Occupational exposure can range from the use of whiteout by administrative personnel to the use of chemicals by technicians in a nail salon. When a solvent evaporates, the vapors may also pose a threat to the exposed population. Many kinds of vapors, solvents vapors, we expose during our day-to-day life. Another type is a radiation and radioactive materials. Radiation is the release and propagation of energy in space or through a material medium in the form of waves. The transfer of heat or light by waves of energy or the stream of particles from a nuclear reactor come under this. One more is a dioxin or furans, also called as a TCDD, was originally discovered as a contaminant in a herbicide agent orange. Dioxin is also a byproduct of chlorine processing in paper producing industries. Then pesticide is a one of a group cause health hazard for human. The EPA defines pesticide as any substance or a mixture of substance intended to prevent, destroy, repel, or mitigate any pest. Pesticide may also be described as any physical, chemical or biological agent that will kill an undesirable plant or animal pest, but they serve as a toxicant for humans. Toxicants of plant origin, plant toxins. Different portion of a plant may contain different concentration of chemicals. Some chemicals made by plants can be lethal. For example, taxon, used in chemotherapy to kill cancer cells, is produced by a species of a yew plant. One more is animal toxins. These toxins can result from venomous or poisonous animals release. Venomous animals are usually defined as those that are capable of producing a poison in highly developed glands or groups of cells and can deliver that toxin through biting or stinging. Poisonous animals are generally regarded as those whose tissues, either in part or in their whole, are toxic. There are subcategories are made of this toxic substance during classifications. All of these substances may also be further classified according to their effect on target organs like liver, kidney, hematopoietic systems, or their use as pesticides, solvent, food additives, or source of agent like animal or plant toxins, or their effects like cancer mutation, liver injury, their physical state like gaseous, dust, or liquid form, labeling requirements, whether they are explosive, inflammable, or oxidizers, or chemistry, chemical structures, aromatic amines, halogenated hydrocarbons, etc., or their poisoning potential as extremely toxic, very toxic, or slightly toxic. General classification of interest to communities are air pollutant, occupation related, acute or chronic poisons. All chemicals or any chemicals may be poisonous at a given dose, although a particular route, for example, breathing too much pure oxygen, drinking excessive amount of water, or eating too much salt can cause poisoning or death.